137, those who despair at our lowliness, our menial pursuits, our ignorance, and our destruction must be judging, though many unconsciously, against a supposition of a higher power or potential for our own being far greater grandeur, intention, knowledge, and benevolence. Uh, so to me, that ties in there as well. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
So just like you were saying, there's that part of the person that's going to set off an alarm bell and be like, hey, yes, you're following purpose, but it's not the purpose you should be following. There's some part of you that knows better. Um, this, again, if you're in the modern view, you have this mythology that allows you to say, yeah, but that's nonsense. You should just ignore that alarm bell because it's just a misprogramming of a meaningless being. But again, if you realize that, oh, that's just a faith founded on nonsense, and you eschew it and you say, what evidence do I really have to think that life is meaningless and my consciousness is insignificant? You go, oh, right, none. Okay, now I'm going to assume that it's significant, and that works out because I can't not assume that. Once you're on that trajectory, you can notice that these anytime that you have the supposition of a greater purpose, you have that little alarm bell going off. That is, and even the people who are driven by nihilism have those alarm bells. That's not an aberration, that's a reflection of reality. So, the same way, the people who sort of argue for a bleak view of the world, who talk about how terrible humans are, what a terrible state we're in, how much better it would be if we were whatever, the Star Trek Socialist Society or part of the Galactic Federation with whatever type 3 level societies and Dyson spheres around suns, whatever it is.
yeah,
Like, you can't actually make a significant case for humans being terrible based on figments of imagination that are meaningless and illusory. So this point comes home with Benatar because he talks about how many other potential realities there could be, and like um, how poor ours is in comparison. And okay, fair enough, but only fair enough if you accept that those realities are at least potentially real, like they have the possibility of manifestation. So then you're bringing in the idea of infinite manifestation and that we could achieve them. So then you're bringing in the idea that humans have this greater potential. So you're appealing to the idea of like essentially infinite good creation and human destiny. Those have already been wrapped up by the time that you have um, started the process of judging humanity based on an imaginary higher society. Unless you're engaged in a meaningless process of judging based on nonsense imaginations, which why should we listen to that? Whatever. If you're taking them seriously, that means you already buy into human destiny and uh, the potential goodness in creation. So people who look down on our current state, people who look down on humanity, have to be, if they're making a solid case for it, if they're making a meaningful case, they have to be doing it by comparison to some better standard that they actually believe exists. So
mhm,
every time people look down on humanity, they're actually saying we're not fulfilling our appropriate destiny.
mhm.
And if they believe that, then that means they believe we have a destiny that is towards goodness. So you're not making an argument that human beings are um, a what, an aberration. You're saying we're failing at our destiny. We're on a quest. We have a destiny. We're destined for goodness. We're not fulfilling it. We need to do better. So that again, once you're appealing to responsibility, conscious morality, like these all have to be grounded, and you actually have to believe in them for your argument to be uh, forceful and you to be taken seriously. And if you believe in all those things, you have to ground them in the infinite. You have to believe in infinite significance, the reality of morality, the significance of consciousness. So all of that already blows nihilism away. So you can't actually use those arguments to build up a case for a nihilistic point of view.
Yeah, I see that where it's where a lot of people would attribute meaninglessness to the current state of affairs because we've fallen short of some preconceived actualization that is far superior than what we are now. And
Right.
rather than going to back to the opening quote of Peterson and having faith in that, eventually we'll get there, or if we take these steps, we will fulfill that destiny. It's like, well, because we're not that now, we're just going to attribute meaninglessness to our current state.
Right, right. It's gotten so bad, therefore, uh, we must not have been worth anything from the beginning.
Right.
It's really an emotional, driven outburst. It's not really a rational argument, even though many people take it as good evidence for supporting the ideas of nihilism.
And that I think brings up what we've mentioned earlier to some extent, and I think actually in this whole conversation is that you can attribute meaning to meaninglessness. By
Right, right.
belief system, you're therefore attributing meaning. And again, well, you know what? Hey, third time's a charm. We'll go ahead and throw a third Peterson quote in there. Uh, and I think this sums that up. When people say life has no meaning, what they mean is I'm suffering stupidly and intensely, and I don't know what to do about it. The suffering is meaningful. It's just not the kind of meaning that you want.
Yes,
So because we're not where we envision humanity to be, or we can conceptualize humanity as being this crazy civilization, or at this specific, you know, point in the chart of civilization and potentials, because we're not there yet, it's just meh.
right.
We'll try.
It's we're in the midst of suffering and difficulty, so we might as well just throw in the towel because we're not getting there, probably weren't anyways, and it probably never meant anything. Those are all ridiculous assumptions, but that's sort of the only way to feel like you can get out of it because obviously if you're like, well, we're failing at our destiny, I believe in our destiny and I believe in our destiny is good. The only option is, well, you better try harder. Like
Right,
you better suck
exactly.
it up, shape up and get things together. But that is not a fun one to face because then you actually have to commit yourself to that and reform and repent and that kind of sucks versus you have this temptation to be like, well, maybe things are so bad because everything's pointless and random anyways, and we're just stupid and broken and nothing ever meant anything. And while that sucks, at least we can give up. And maybe if, further down you go, then you're like, well, maybe we should just destroy all the other humans and all human existence. And then at least nobody would be around to see this sucky mess.
Right. It's not like I'm going to face any repercussions for doing so because there's nothing after this. We're just going into
Right.
non-existence after that. So do as thou wilt, as
Right. Right. And